There are many incidents that cannot be explained, even after thorough examination. Have you ever heard of the time traveler? What about the Stanley Hotel ghost? Join us as we look at 20 rare historical photos scientists cannot explain. 20. Pyramid on the Moon. A pyramid has been sighted on the moon, and conspiracy theorists believe it was built by the same entity that built Egypt's famed pyramids. Alien hunters have gone into a frenzy after discovering a pyramid shape in a massive crater on the moon. The structure appears to be three-sided and man-made, so the issue remains. Is this conclusive evidence that the pyramids of Egypt were built by aliens from our moon? Anything is possible. Some conspiracy theorists believe aliens could occupy the moon, which is why NASA has not returned since the Apollo missions ended in the 1970s. They assume that this pyramid and other anomalies were erected by an ancient alien culture in the same way that Earth's pyramids and other buildings were. However, skeptics and NASA claim that the pyramid and other similar finds are just the result of pareidolia, a psychological phenomenon in which the brain tricks the sight into seeing familiar objects or forms in patterns or textures, such as a rock surface. 19. Satellite belonging to an extraterrestrial civilization. It has been 120 years since conspiracy theorists believed the presence of the Black Knight was in fact true. Those who believe in the hypothesis claim to have discovered an extraterrestrial spacecraft in near-polar orbit around the Earth, but their evidence is so varied that it's unclear why they're linked. What they amount to is a fascinating mix of elements that, when combined, prompt people to cry aloud about potential NASA and government cover-ups. In that sense, it is a tale that will not go away. Many of the early discoveries associated with the Black Knight satellite theory involve radio waves. However, a sequence of pictures from 1998 emerged that truly tossed the heavenly cat among the pigeons. They were taken during STS-88, the first space shuttle mission to the International Space Station. NASA's photographs of a black object hanging over the Earth in low orbit were visible to everyone, and it wasn't long after the photographs were displayed to a hopeful audience that people began making conspiratorial calculations and shared them with the rest of the world. 18. Photograph of time traveler. A remarkable photograph from nearly a century ago has raised questions about the possibility of time travel. Last Picnic shows a group of parents and children sitting on a mound in Canada in 1917. Women are wearing long skirts while males are dressed in blazers and bowler hats. What attracted people's attention, however, was a man who bore a striking resemblance to someone from the 20th century. He stands out from the throng, clothed in a large t-shirt and shorts, with a messy hairdo. The surfer man, as some have dubbed him, perplexes everyone around him. A man to his left looks shocked, while a woman on the other side points at him. Certain scholars claim that t-shirts existed at the time, and that they entered the common lexicon soon afterward, appearing in the Merriam-Webster dictionary in the 1920s. Given that the other guys in the picture are also dressed in shorts, I'm going to say he's not a time traveler. Other than Bill and Ted, who would believe that a t-shirt and shorts are the greatest thing to wear when time traveling into the past? 17. Cinema audience. This video features an image titled Cinema Audience, taken by James Jarche for the Daily Herald in 1932 using the Ilford infrared technique. This movie audience was photographed in the dark while watching a presentation of Cecil B. DeMille's The Sign of the Cross at London's Carlton Theatre, using 6 infrared lamps concealed in the balcony. If you're curious about when this technology was first employed, it was in 1910, when an American physicist called Robert Williams Wood exposed his own photographic plates and created the first known infrared images of various scenes. 16. Stanley Hotel Ghost. It's the type of souvenir you don't expect. A supernatural being appears in one of your holiday photos. Henry Yao, a tourist, went to Colorado's Stanley Hotel, which served as the backdrop for the 1980 horror film The Shining. He photographed the hotel lobby's frightening staircase, and in one of his photos, a ghost dressed in historical clothing emerged at the top of the stairs. Yao says that the stairs were completely empty when he snapped the photo. According to a paranormal expert, there are actually 2 ghosts in the photo, the woman in black on the stairs and a barely visible child to her left. This is not the first time someone has reported a ghostly sighting at the Stanley Hotel. The hotel's website even includes a section dedicated to its Ghost Adventure package, as well as another that recounts the hotel's ghostly history. After a century of collecting spirits, the hotel has become famous among paranormal investigators as one of the country's most active sites, according to the website. 15. Colin Evanslevitation. Colin Evans, a spiritualist, drew large crowds by claiming to be able to levitate with the help of spirits. Unfortunately for Evans and those who paid to see him, he was later revealed to be nothing more than a fraud. The spiritualist would hold seances in large rooms and halls on a regular basis, attempting to communicate with spirits, conveying messages from them, and demonstrating their existence through supernatural acts. He would request that the room be completely dark, with the audience chanting around him as he attempted to contact the other side. During one of the first seances, held in 1937 at Wortley Hall in London's Finsbury Park, Evans took a photograph of himself allegedly levitating, claiming that the spirits in the hall had lifted him out of the chair he had been standing on. The audience was none the wiser, as he could allegedly be seen levitating during the blinding light. He appeared to be floating in mid-air during the flash of light. Many people who were skeptical before the stunt were now convinced. To them, there was no other way to describe how Evans had been suspended high above the ground at the time, with photographic evidence showing his feet no longer touching the chair and his body rigid and floating in mid-air. Some previous skeptics remained skeptical, pointing out that in all the photos of Evans seemingly levitating, he was holding a cord that ran out of his left hand. With suspicions raised, it was also noted that his feet appeared to be slightly blurred in almost every photo. This was the case with a photograph taken in 1938, when Evans allowed the newspaper to set up a camera in London's pitch-black Conway Hall. As he pressed a button at the end of the wire to turn on an infrared light and expose the photograph, the cord was once again clearly visible. Other magicians claimed that his blurred feet were evidence that he had simply been jumping out of chairs, rather than being lifted by spirits. They were correct. Evans was exposed as a fraud after it was discovered that he had jumped high into the air to fool audiences into believing that something supernatural was taking place, with the darkness assisting in ensuring that no one could see what he was doing. 14. Spooky Hand. Since at least November 2020, a terrifying and ghoulish century-old photograph of a group of girls in a linen mill has been used in web adverts. The shot appears to have been taken around the year 1900. There is no proof it was digitally altered, but it might have been edited prior to processing, printing, or reproduction. The snapshot shows 15 girls standing at a linen industry in what was subsequently known as Northern Ireland. The girl on the right side of the image, second row from the bottom, looks to be carrying something on her shoulder. While instantaneous photography was established before 1900 in the 19th century, some photographers continued to use long exposure techniques. Experts also investigated whether the fingers on her shoulder were made from materials used in the linen plant. Falling on the front side of the female to the left of the one in question is an example of the implements they worked with, which resemble the fingers on the other girl's shoulder. 13. Unwanted dinner guest. According to legend, when the Cooper family moved into their new home, this was the first snapshot taken. When the image was processed, it plainly showed a body descending from the ceiling. However, further inquiry into this topic provides no additional information, prompting many to assume it is simply an image deception or fraud. It is unclear where the photo came from or when it first appeared. 12. McMinville UFO. The photographs in this video were published in June 1950 by the McMinville Telephone Register and the Oregonian, 1 month after Paul Trent took them. An unidentifiable flying object approached them and appeared to dip slightly upward. This is one of the few UFO reports, the study declared, in which all factors investigated, genetic, psychological, and physical, appear to be consistent with the assertion that an extraordinary flying object, silvery, metallic, disc-shaped, tens of meters in diameter, and clearly artificial, flew within sight of 2 witnesses. It looks like the people in our thumbnail are thrilled to have aliens among them. The picture on the left shows 2 men with an alien and his pet, which looks like a miniature dinosaur. The picture on the right shows what looks like a gray sitting at an event, with the other spectators not being aware of his presence. Why don't you let us know in the comments below if you think these pics are real or doctored? 11. Soulway Fth spaceman. On a beautiful summer day in 1964, a firefighter captured a photograph of his daughter that made headlines around the world. They went on a normal outing and chose a location, sitting down, so Dad could photograph his daughter in her new dress. Following the photograph, the father noticed a white suit, a helmet, and a dark visor standing behind his daughter. It wasn't until the chemist who processed his photos pointed out that the shot had been ruined by a figure when he realized someone or something else had been present. This is when he took it to the police, who said there was nothing unusual about it. Kodak, the film company, said the same thing, and even offered a reward to anyone who could prove the photo was a forgery. However, a media frenzy quickly ensued. Some claimed it was a spirit, while others claimed the father or his daughter possessed psychic abilities they were unaware of. Then, 2 men in black arrived and asked to be taken to the location where the image was taken. All of this could be described as unsettling for the father. Back in the 1950s and 1960s, there were a few grainy stills of extraordinary events. It's one of the most impressive anomalous images in supernatural investigations, in my opinion, and it'll be talked about for another 50 years. 10. Backseat Ghost. Mrs. Mabel Chinnery was visiting her mother's grave in a British churchyard in 1959 when she snapped a photo of her husband, who was waiting in the car alone. When the film was processed, Mrs. Chinnery saw her mother in the back seat, the woman whose grave they had visited that day. A photo expert studied it for a British newspaper and confirmed its authenticity. I guess Mom wanted to make sure they weren't leaving the cemetery without her. 9. Luncha Top. Luncha Top, a skyscraper, is a black and white photograph taken on September 20th, 1932, depicting 11 ironworkers sitting on a steel beam 850 feet above the ground while constructing the RCA building in Manhattan, New York City. The men were accustomed to walking along the girders. The shot is sometimes misattributed to Lewis Hine. However, the identity of the original photographer is unclear. Evidence suggested that Charles C. Ebbets may have taken it, but it was later discovered that other photographers were present at the shoot. Many assertions have been made about the identities of the guys in the image, but only a handful have been definitively confirmed. 8. Times Square Policeman. The man you see hanging from a beam in this photograph is probably doctored, using a green screen effect to make it seem like he is hanging from above Times Square. If this were real, he probably couldn't hold on more than a few seconds in real life. After all, this isn't the movie Mission Impossible. 7. Madonna and UFO. There is one painting in Florence's Palazzo Vecchio's Lozer collection that never fails to captivate visitors who come to see it. The Madonna with St. Giovannino is the title of this painting. People are perplexed by the strange object floating in the sky, which was painted in the 15th century by Domenico Ghirlandaio. For in the background, just above the Madonna's left shoulder, is an oval-shaped object, and beneath it stands a man who appears to be looking up at the strange shape in the sky, while his dog appears to be barking at it. Ghirlandaio's object here could simply be his interpretation of an angelic presence, or a depiction of a brilliant star, as there is a depiction of the nativity star on the left of the painting. Who knows, it could be an ancient and now forgotten piece of Christian iconography. 6. Spectre of Newbie Church. The Spectre of Newbie Church is the moniker given to a person discovered in a photograph taken at the Church of Christ the Consoler on the grounds of Newbie Hall. The Reverend Kenneth F. Lord captured this shot in 1963. Most believers have concluded that it resembles a 16th century monk wearing a white shroud over his face. Others believe it is an accomplice dressed in a costume. If I had to bet some money on this, I would pick the second assumption. 5. Cell phone in World War II pic. In this movie, we see a photograph of a man in the background looking at the camera with his hand to the side of his face. The first mobile phone, a Motorola, was released in 1973, exactly 30 years after the shot was taken. Some said that the man was simply scratching his ear, while others believed he was gripping his pipe or even holding up his watch to see if it was working. This last explanation is supported by the fact that the man is standing next to a watch shop in the shot. 4. Island's Sea Monster. The Hook Island Sea Monster, photographed in 1965, is one of the most famous sea cryptids. It was discovered in Stonehaven Bay, Hook Island, Queensland, Australia. Robert Lasarick, who had a run-in with the monster, said he saw it in December 1964 with his family and a ship's hand. It was 30 foot long and shaped like a tadpole. The family began taking photographs. They initially thought the 75 to 80 foot monster was dead, but they were mistaken. Some argue that the image is most likely just a clever angle on a large school of fish. However, because of how straight the lines are in the pictures, this is nearly impossible. Others speculated it was a monster-shaped sheet of plastic that had been weighed down to create the shape. Darren Naish's exhaustive and well-researched Scientific American article on this concludes that it was undoubtedly a hoax. 3. Time-traveling hipster. You've probably heard of the urban legend of the time-traveling hipster. It is based on an image that has been circulating on the internet for several years. Everything began with a black and white photograph taken in 1941 in Gold Bridge, British Columbia. It depicts the crowd gathered to celebrate the reopening of the South Fork Bridge. The image depicts exactly what one would expect from a group of respectable citizens in 1941. Except for something just right of center, nothing looks out of place. He's wearing what appears to be a printed t-shirt and strangely hip sunglasses. He appears to have left a Depeche Mode concert in 1990 and walked onto a bridge in British Columbia in 1941. Some consider the photograph to be proof of the reality of time travel. What is the significance of the hipster in the photograph? Unfortunately, it isn't as exciting as time travel. The camera, his haircut, and the edgy sunglasses that set him apart from the crowd were all available to everyone in 1941. Even his t-shirt, which appears to be printed, but is a sewn-on logo, was from the Montreal Maroons, a popular sports team at the time. The hipster stands out not because he went back in time, but because he made different choices than the people around him, allowing him to stand out from the crowd. 2. Dead man in photo. In 1919, near the end of World War I, an image of Victor Goddard's RAF squadron was taken. On that day, all the squadron staff were present, except for air mechanic Freddie Jackson, who had died a few days before. Surprisingly, he appeared in the shot. An extra ghostly face appears in the photo behind the airman in the top row. Maybe Jackson, unknowing of his demise, opted to attend the group photo. Even today, no one knows how the dead man's face emerged in the photograph. 1. Babushka Lady. The Babushka Lady is an unidentified woman who was present during the 1963 assassination of U.S. President John F. Kennedy and may have photographed or filmed events in Dallas's Dealey Plaza at the time President John F. Kennedy was shot. Her moniker was derived from the headscarf she wore, which resembled scarves worn by elderly Russian women. She crossed Elm Street and joined the crowd ascending the grassy knoll after the shooting. She was last seen walking east on Elm Street in photographs. Most of these were awesome and mysterious, but those ghosts were mind-boggling. Which one was your favorite? Why don't you let us know in the comments below? Well, that's it for now. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and let us know in the comments what you think. Check out our other videos and subscribe to be part of the fun. Click on the notification icon so you can see our new videos as soon as they're uploaded. Thanks for watching and see you next time.